What lies beneath? The hull plating of human vessels that shocked Council Part 1. The human cruiser Eternal Dawn sat quietly in the docking bay of Galactic Council, Space Station Veritas 7. The ship was old by human standards. It had served for 30 years and carried the scars of many battles. Burn marks covered parts of its gray hull. Patches of newer metal showed where repairs had been made. Yet the ship still flew. It still fought. And that was exactly why the council had called it here. Captain Park Do-hyun stood on the bridge and watched the station through the main viewport. He was a tall man with tired eyes and gray hair at his temples. He had commanded the Eternal Dawn for 7 years. Before that, he had served on 3 other ships. All of them had been destroyed in battle. He was the only captain in the fleet who had survived 4 ship deaths. Some called him lucky. He knew better. "Captain, the inspection team is requesting permission to board," said Lieutenant Yoon-hana from her station. She was the chief engineer, a woman in her 30s with sharp eyes and oil stains on her uniform that never seemed to wash out completely. "How many of them?" Park Do-hyun asked. "6, sir. Led by Inspector Veleth of the Kovani." Park Do-hyun sighed. The Kovani were known for their attention to detail. They missed nothing. Their compound eyes could see in spectrums that humans could not even imagine. If the council wanted to find something wrong with a human ship, sending a Corvani inspector was the right choice. "Permission granted. I will meet them at the airlock personally." He walked through the corridors of his ship. Crew members nodded as he passed. The Eternal Dawn carried 240 souls. Park Do-hyun knew every single name. He knew their families. He knew their stories. That was his duty as captain. The airlock opened with a hiss. Inspector Veleth stepped through first. He was tall and thin, like all Corvani. His skin was a pale blue color, and his large eyes reflected the light in strange ways. Behind him came 5 other aliens of different species. They carried scanning equipment and recording devices. "Captain Park Do-hyun," Veleth said. His voice was flat and showed no emotion. "I am Inspector Veleth. The Galactic Council has authorized a full inspection of your vessel. You will cooperate completely. Any refusal will be considered an act of hostility." "I understand," Park Do-hyun replied calmly. "My crew has been instructed to give you full access to all areas of the ship." "All areas?" Veleth asked. His eyes narrowed slightly. "All areas." The inspection began in the engine room. Lieutenant Yoon-hana explained the human drive systems while the aliens scanned everything. They found nothing unusual. The weapons bay was next. Human missiles and energy cannons were standard technology. Nothing illegal. Nothing hidden. Hours passed. The inspection team moved through every deck. They opened every storage container. They scanned every computer system. They found nothing but an ordinary human warship. Council Atrenix watched the inspection through a video link from the station. He was a mulvuri, a species that resembled large insects with 4 arms and dark shells. He had pushed hard for this inspection. Human ships had survived battles that should have destroyed them. Human crews fought with a fury that made no logical sense. There had to be a reason. There had to be something hidden. Inspector Veleth, Trenix spoke through the communication channel. "Have you examined the hull structure?" Veleth paused. "The outer hull has been scanned. Standard armor plating. Not the outer hull. The space between the outer hull and the inner walls. Human ships have double hulls. What is in the space between them?" Park Do-hyun felt his stomach tighten. He had hoped they would not ask about that. "Captain," Veleth turned to face him, "I require access to the interior hull spaces." "That will require removing hull plates," Park Do-hyun said slowly. "It is not a simple process. The council demands it. You agreed to full access. There was no way to refuse. Park Do-hyun nodded to Lieutenant Yoon-hana. She called her engineering team. They brought tools and began removing a section of wall plating near the main corridor. The metal plates came off one by one. Behind them was another layer of hull. Between the two layers was a space about half a meter wide. It was dark inside. Inspector Veleth activated a light on his scanner and pointed it into the gap. He froze. The other inspectors gathered around. They looked inside. None of them spoke. "What is this?" Veleth finally asked. His voice had changed. There was confusion in it now. Park Do-hyun stepped forward and looked into the space he had seen many times before. Photographs lined the inner surface of the outer hull. Hundreds of them. Faces of men, women, and children smiled back from the darkness. Between the photographs were letters, their paper yellowed with age. Small objects hung from strings attached to the ceiling of the gap. A child's toy, a wedding ring, a dried flower, a wooden cross, a small flag. Names were written on the metal in permanent marker. Some were fresh and clear. Others had faded with time. Dates accompanied the names. Some dates went back decades. "Captain Park Do-hyun," Veleth said slowly. "Explain this." Park Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. He looked at the photographs. He saw the face of his own daughter smiling back at him from one corner. "These are our hearts, Inspector," he said softly. "Every human ship carries them. Every crew member places something precious between the hulls. Something from home. Something to remind us why we fight." Veleth stared at him. His translator device struggled to process the words. In the Kravani language, there was no equivalent phrase for what the captain had described. "You fill your warships with personal belongings?" Veleth asked. "With photographs of children? With toys?" "Yes, why?" Park Do-hyun met the alien's eyes. "Because when we fight, we are not defending metal and circuits. We are defending everyone whose face is on these walls. We are defending every letter that a mother wrote to her son, every drawing that a child made for their parent, every promise of love that waits for us at home." Veleth looked back into the dark space. A small photograph caught his attention. It showed a young human girl holding a paper sign that read, "Come home safe. Daddy," in messy handwriting. For the first time in his career, Inspector Veleth did not know what to write in his report. He turned to his team. "Continue the inspection. Document everything you find in the hull spaces." As the inspectors spread through the ship, opening more wall panels, they found the same thing everywhere. Photographs, letters, memories, love, made physical and hidden in the walls of a warship. Counselor Tranks watched through the video feed. He had expected to find weapons. He had expected to find secrets. He had not expected this. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Lieutenant Yoon-hana stood next to Captain Park Do-hyun. "They do not understand, do they?" she asked quietly. "No," Park Do-hyun replied. "But they will. By the time this inspection is over, they will understand exactly why human ships never surrender. Why we fight until the last breath. Why we would rather die than abandon our vessels." He touched the wall beside him gently, knowing what lay hidden beneath the metal. "Because abandoning our ships means abandoning our families. And humans will never do that." What lies beneath the hull plating of human vessels that shocked? Council Part 3, Captain Park. Do-hyun walked slowly through the corridors of the Eternal Dawn with Inspector Veleth beside him. The alien had requested a personal tour. He wanted to understand more about what the humans had hidden in their walls. Park Do-hyun had agreed because he knew that understanding was the only path to peace. They stopped near the bridge. The wall panels had been removed here as well, revealing the hidden space inside. But this section was different from the others. "What are these names?" Veleth asked. He pointed to rows of text engraved directly into the metal of the inner hull. "These are the crew members of every ship that has carried the name Eternal Dawn," Park Do-hyun explained. "This is the fourth ship to bear this name. The first was destroyed 60 years ago in the Battle of New Hope. The second was lost 20 years later in the Siege of Coulter. The third burned during the defense of Earth's outer colonies." Veleth scanned the names. There were thousands of them, arranged in neat columns that covered the entire surface of the hidden space. "You memorialize your dead inside the walls of successor ships? We carry them with us. When a ship dies, its legacy passes to the next ship that carries its name. The new crew inherits the memories of all who served before. We become part of a chain that stretches back through time. You believe the dead are still present in some way?" Park Do-hyun touched one of the names gently. "My grandfather's name is here. He served on the second Eternal Dawn. He died when I was a child. But when I walk these corridors, I feel him watching over me. I carry his honor. I protect his memory." Veleth made notes in his recording device. He did not understand ancestor worship. The Kovani disposed of their dead efficiently and never thought of them again. The past was irrelevant. Only the present and future mattered. They walked further into the ship. In the weapons bay, they found Ensign Cho Tae-woo conducting routine maintenance. He was young, barely 25 years old, with nervous eyes and hands that moved quickly over his work. "Ensign Cho," Park Do-hyun said, "show Inspector Veleth what you contributed to the ship." The young man looked uncomfortable, but he nodded and walked to a specific wall panel. He removed it carefully and reached inside. When he pulled his hand back, he held a small wooden object. "What is this?" Veleth asked. "It is a bird," Cho Tae-woo said quietly. "My grandmother carved it for me before I left for the academy. She said it would protect me and help me find my way home, like birds always find their way back to their nests." Veleth examined the object. It was roughly carved, clearly made by amateur hands. The wood was old and worn smooth from handling. "This has no protective function. It cannot affect the outcome of battle. My grandmother believes it will protect me," Cho Tae-woo replied. "And because she believes it, I believe it too. When I am afraid, I remember that this bird is with me. I remember that my grandmother is thinking of me. I remember that I promised to come home to her. You promised a carving of wood that you would return. I promised my grandmother. The bird is just a symbol. But symbols have power, Inspector. They remind us of what matters." Veleth handed the bird back to the young ensign. He watched as Cho Tae-woo placed it carefully back in its hidden space, treating it with more care than he would treat an actual weapon. They continued walking. In the crew quarters section, they met Master Chief Oh My-rae. She was the oldest crew member on the ship, a woman in her 60s with white hair and a face lined by decades of service. She had served in the fleet for 40 years. Master Chief Oh has served on 12 different ships, Captain Park Do-hyun said. She has added something to the walls of every one of them. Oh Myra smiled, showing wrinkles around her eyes. "It is a tradition I started when I was young and foolish. Now I am old and still foolish, but the tradition continues." "What did you add?" Veleth asked. The old woman led them to a nearby wall and removed a panel. Inside, among the photographs and letters, was a small collection of objects. Dog tags from fallen comrades, a medal of honor, a faded ribbon from a child's birthday gift, a letter yellowed with age. "These are the people I have loved," Oh My-rae said. "Some are still alive. Many are not. But all of them are with me. When the ship goes into battle, they go with me. When I face death, I am surrounded by everyone who ever mattered in my life." Veleth studied the collection. "You carry the remains of dead companions? I carry their memory. Their dog tags remind me of the price of war. Their sacrifices gave meaning to my survival. I honor them by continuing to fight, by continuing to serve, by refusing to waste the gift of life they gave me. The Kovani do not honor our dead. We believe they are simply gone. Oh, my Ray looked at the alien with something like pity. Then your dead truly are gone, Inspector. But our dead live on. They live in our memories. They live in the walls of our ships. They live in the hearts of everyone who loved them. Death cannot erase a human soul as long as someone remembers. They walked in silence for a while. Velith tried to process everything he had seen. The humans had transformed their warship into something that defied classification. It was a weapon of war, yes, but it was also a shrine, a memorial, a collection of love made physical. In the observation deck, Park Do-yoon stopped and looked out at the stars. Inspector Velith, I need you to understand something, he said. What you have seen today is not unique to this ship. Every human vessel, from the smallest patrol craft to the largest battleship, contains these same things. It is part of our culture. It is part of our identity as a species. Why do you tell me this? Because you will report to the council. You will tell them what you found. And I want you to tell them the truth, not just facts. Velith tilted his head. Truth and facts are the same thing. No, they are not. The facts are that we hide personal items in our walls. The truth is that those items make us who we are. The facts are that we carry photographs of our children into battle. The truth is that those photographs give us the courage to face death without fear. Park Do-yoon turned to face the alien directly. His eyes were steady and calm. The truth, Inspector, is that humans are dangerous not because of our weapons or our technology. We are dangerous because we would burn the universe to protect the people we love. We are dangerous because we cannot be broken by pain or fear or death. We are dangerous because when you threaten our families, even the photographs of our families, you awaken something in us that cannot be stopped. Velith felt something strange as he listened to the human captain. It might have been fear, or it might have been something else. Something his species had no name for. I will write my report, he said finally. I will tell the council exactly what I found. That is all I ask. Park Do-yoon returned to watching the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth waited. Somewhere out there, families waited for their loved ones to return. Somewhere out there, the reason for everything was counting the days until the eternal dawn came home. Velith left the observation deck and began composing his report. His hands trembled slightly as he wrote. For the first time in his long career, he was afraid of what the council might do when they learned the truth about human ships. Not because humans were violent, because humans loved, and love, he was beginning to understand, was the most terrifying weapon in the universe. What lies beneath the hull plating of human vessels that shocked Council Part 2? Inspector Velith had examined thousands of ships in his career. He had seen hidden weapons. He had found illegal modifications. He had discovered secret compartments filled with forbidden technology. Nothing had prepared him for what he found on the human vessel. The inspection team moved through the eternal dawn for 6 more hours. Every wall they opened revealed the same thing: photographs, letters, small objects that had no military value. The humans called them memories. Velith did not fully understand what that word meant. In the medical bay, Dr. Baisuni watched the aliens work. She was the ship's physician and counselor, a woman with gentle eyes and a calm voice. She had served on human vessels for 20 years. She had treated wounds of the body and wounds of the heart. To her, the two were often connected. A young alien inspector named Krill approached her. He was a Finari, a species that looked like small foxes walking on 2 legs. His fur was orange with white patches, and his ears twitched nervously as he spoke. Doctor, May I ask you questions? Krill said. His voice was higher than the other aliens, almost like a child's. Of course. Krill held up his scanner. I do not understand the purpose of these objects in your walls. They add weight to the ship. They serve no function in combat. They cannot repair damage or power systems. Why do humans deliberately make their ships less efficient? Dr. Bei Suni smiled softly. It was a question she had been asked many times by aliens who visited human space. The answer was never easy to explain. Do you have a family, Specialist Krill? She asked. The Fenari tilted his head. I have genetic contributors. 2 who provided biological material for my creation. Is that what you mean? Do you love them? Krill's ears flattened against his head. Love is a chemical response in the brain. It evolved to encourage species survival. I do not understand why you ask. Dr. Bei Suni nodded slowly. This was always the hardest part. Most alien species did not experience emotions the way humans did. Some had eliminated strong feelings through genetic modification. Others had simply evolved without them. To these species, human behavior seemed irrational and dangerous. When humans leave home to serve on ships, she began, we carry a piece of home with us. Something physical that connects us to the people we love. When I look at the photograph of my daughter behind that wall, I remember why I am here. I remember what I am protecting. It gives me strength that no weapon can provide. Krill processed this information. You believe these objects give you strength? I do not believe it. I know it. I have seen crew members fight through injuries that should have killed them because they refused to die before seeing their families again. I have seen dying soldiers smile at a photograph in their final moments, happy because they felt their loved ones close. Love is not just a chemical response, Specialist Krill. It is a force more powerful than any weapon we have invented. The young Fenari looked at the wall of the medical bay. Behind the smooth metal surface, hidden from view, were the memories of the medical staff. He knew they were there now. He had seen them during the inspection. Pictures of children, letters from parents, a lock of hair, a worn stuffed animal. Your people fight harder because of these things? Krill asked. We fight harder. We heal faster. We survive longer. When you have something worth dying for, you find ways to keep living. In another part of the ship, Inspector Velith stood in the main engineering section with Lieutenant Yunhana. The chief engineer had removed several wall panels to show him the full extent of what lay hidden. This section was different from the others. Mixed with the photographs and letters were handwritten notes on metal plates. Velith's translator struggled to interpret them. These are blessings, Yunhana explained. The families of engineers write them. They ask for the ship to be protected. They ask for their loved ones to return safely. Blessings from whom? Velith asked. From whatever power they believe in. Some write to gods. Some write to ancestors. Some simply write their hopes into the universe. Velith touched one of the metal plates. The writing was small and careful. His translator finally processed it. May this ship carry my son home to me. May its engines never fail. May its shields never break. A mother's love protects what weapons cannot. This is installed as part of the ship's structure? Velith asked with disbelief. Every human ship has them. When a new ship is built, the families of the crew are invited to contribute. They write their hopes on the plates that become part of the ship itself. Their words are built into the walls. Their love becomes part of the metal. Velith stepped back. His mind struggled to process what he was learning. In Kovani culture, ships were tools. They were built for efficiency. Crews were assigned based on skill evaluations. Personal feelings had no place in military operations. You believe your ships have souls? he asked. Yunhana considered the question. Not exactly. But we believe our ships carry the souls of everyone who loves us. When we are millions of miles from home, surrounded by enemies, we are not alone. Our families are with us in these walls. And this affects your performance in combat? Inspector Velith, do you know why the Eternal Dawn has survived 30 years of war? It is not because we have better weapons. It is not because we have better shields. It is because every single person on this ship is fighting for something beyond themselves. We fight for the photographs behind our walls. We fight for the letters. We fight for the children who drew pictures for us. We fight for the people waiting for us to come home. Velith looked around the engineering bay. Everywhere he looked, he saw evidence of human emotion. It was built into the very structure of the ship. It was woven into every system, every corridor, every deck. The Council believes you are hiding weapons, he said quietly. We are hiding something far more dangerous than weapons, Yunhana replied. We are hiding love. And love makes humans capable of things that terrify the galaxy. On the bridge, Captain Park Do-hyun received a communication from the station. Counselor Trenix wanted to speak with him directly. Captain, the Mulvery's voice came through the speakers. I have watched the inspection footage. I do not understand what we are seeing. You fill your military vessels with personal items that have no combat value. This seems like madness. It may seem that way, Counselor, Park Do-hyun replied calmly. Your species is illogical. You let emotions control your actions. This should make you weak. But your ships survive battles that destroy ours. Your crews fight with fury that we cannot match. Explain this contradiction. Park Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Through the viewport, he could see other ships in the docking bay. Kovani vessels, Mulvari vessels, Fenari vessels. All of them were clean and efficient. All of them were empty inside in ways that humans could not accept. Counselor Trenix, when your ships go into battle, what do your crews fight for? They fight because they are ordered to fight. They fight for the survival of our species. They fight because it is their function. And when the battle becomes hopeless, when survival seems impossible, what keeps them fighting then? Trenix was silent. Our crews fight for every face on those walls, Park Do-hyun said. When a human soldier is bleeding and broken, when their ship is burning around them, they look at a photograph of their child and they find the strength to keep going. They do not fight because they are ordered to. They fight because they cannot bear the thought of their loved ones living in a universe where they gave up. This is sentiment, emotion. It should make you weak. It makes us unstoppable, Counselor. You cannot defeat an enemy who fights for love. You can destroy their ships. You can kill their bodies. But you cannot break their hearts. The communication ended. Captain Park Do-hyun turned to look at his bridge crew. They watched him with respect in their eyes. Each of them had something hidden in the walls of this ship. Each of them carried a piece of home wherever they went. Continue with the inspection, he ordered. Let them see everything. Let them understand. Deep in the walls of the Eternal Dawn, hundreds of faces smiled from photographs. Thousands of words of love waited in sealed letters. The souls of families far away kept watch over their loved ones, and the aliens who had come looking for weapons found something far more dangerous. They found what made humanity unbreakable. What lies beneath the hull plating of human vessels that shocked? Council Part 4, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, was the largest meeting space in known civilization. Representatives from over 200 species sat in tiered rows that rose toward a domed ceiling painted with maps of the galaxy. Lights floated in the air, providing perfect illumination for beings with many different types of eyes. The room could hold 10,000 individuals, and today it was nearly full. Inspector Velith stood at the central platform. His report was ready. He had spent 2 days organizing his findings, reviewing his recordings, and trying to find words that aliens could understand. It had been the most difficult report of his career. High Arbiter Solemn presided over the session. She was an Illithri, a species that looked like tall, elegant beings made of living crystal. Light refracted through her body as she moved, creating rainbows that danced across nearby surfaces. Her voice was soft but carried clearly through the chamber. Inspector Veleth, you may present your findings regarding the inspection of the human vessel Eternal Dawn. Veleth activated the display system. A holographic image of the human ship appeared above him, rotating slowly. Honored council members, I was tasked with discovering why human ships demonstrate unusual resilience in combat. I was asked to find hidden weapons or illegal technology. I found neither. Councilor Trenix leaned forward from his seat. His forearms twitched with anticipation. Then, what did you find, Inspector? I found this. The hologram changed. It showed the space between the hull plates of the Eternal Dawn. Photographs filled the screen. Letters. Small objects. Names engraved in metal. The chamber fell silent. The human vessel contains thousands of personal items hidden within its structure. These items are placed there by crew members and their families. They include photographs of loved ones, letters from home, small objects of sentimental value, and names of deceased crew members from previous ships. A murmur ran through the chamber. Species who had never encountered humans stared at the images with confusion. Those who had fought against humans recognized what they were seeing. This is their secret weapon? A delegate from the Varix Combine asked with disbelief. Photographs? In a manner of speaking, yes, Veleth replied. These items serve no military function. They add weight to the ship. They take up space that can be used for equipment. From a logical perspective, they are completely useless. He paused and looked around the chamber. But humans are not logical. They are emotional. And these emotions give them strength that we cannot measure. Councilor Trenix stood. This is absurd. You are telling us that humans fight harder because they carry pictures of their children? This is primitive superstition. It is not superstition, Counselor. It is motivation. Human soldiers fight with greater determination because they believe they are protecting the people in those photographs. When a human ship is damaged and retreat is the logical choice. The crew looks at those walls and finds reasons to keep fighting. They do not fight for victory. They fight for love. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species laughed at the idea. Others were disturbed by it. A few sat in thoughtful silence. High Arbiter Solen raised her hand for quiet. Inspector Veleth, please continue. Veleth displayed more images from his inspection. Children's drawings. Wedding rings. Letters sealed in protective cases. The worn wooden bird that Ensign Cho Tai-Wu treasured. I interviewed many human crew members during the inspection. They all described similar beliefs. They believe that carrying these objects connects them to their families across vast distances. They believe that their ships contain not just memories, but actual pieces of their loved ones' souls. Souls do not exist, a Corvani delegate stated flatly. This is mysticism. Perhaps, but the effect is real. Human ships have a significantly higher survival rate than ships of any other species. Human crews fight through injuries that would incapacitate other beings. Human commanders refuse to abandon damaged vessels long past the point of military logic. Veleth turned to face the full council. The humans have found something we have not. They have found a way to transform emotion into power. They have learned to carry their motivation with them into battle. And that motivation makes them extremely dangerous. The door to the chamber opened. Ambassador Quan Jiang entered and walked calmly to the speaker's platform. She was a small woman with gray-streaked hair and a face that showed no fear. Behind her, appearing via hologram, was Admiral Nam Seokjin, commander of the human fleet. "Hi, Arbiter. May I address the council?" Ambassador Quan asked. Solen nodded. "You may." The ambassador looked around the chamber slowly, making eye contact with representatives from every section. "Inspector Veleth has described our practices accurately. Every human ship carries memories in its walls. This is not a secret. This is simply who we are." Counselor Trenix interrupted. "You admit to deliberately compromising your ship's efficiency for sentimental reasons?" "I admit that we prioritize different things than you do, Counselor. You see a ship as a tool. We see it as a home. You see crew members as replaceable. We see them as family. You fight because you are ordered to. We fight because we choose to. And you believe photographs make you stronger? I believe love makes us stronger. The photographs are just reminders." Ambassador Quan turned to face the Admiral's hologram. "Admiral Nam, perhaps you can explain this better than I can." The Admiral was an older man with a scarred face and eyes that had seen too many battles. When he spoke, his voice was low and rough. "Counselors, I have commanded human forces for 30 years. I have sent ships into battles they could not win. I have ordered crews to hold positions until death. And every time, they have obeyed. Not because they had to, because they wanted to." He paused and looked directly at Counselor Trenix. "You asked if photographs make us stronger. The answer is yes. When my ships burn, my soldiers look at the pictures of their children, and they find one more hour of strength. When they are bleeding to death, they think of the people waiting for them at home, and they survive wounds that should have killed them. When surrender would save their lives, they look at those walls, and they remember why surrender is not an option." "Why is surrender not an option?" High Arbiter Solin asked quietly. "Because our ships carry our families with them, High Arbiter. When a human ship burns, every photograph burns. Every letter burns. Every memory burns. We do not allow our families to burn. Not while we have breath left in our bodies. Not while we can still fight." The chamber was completely silent. "You asked what lies beneath the hull plating of human vessels," Admiral Nam continued. "The answer is simple. Love lies there. Hope lies there. The reasons we fight lie there. And those reasons make us unbreakable." Counselor Trenix sat back in his seat. His forehands were trembling slightly. "This is madness. You cannot win wars with sentiment. We won many wars, Counselor. Against enemies with better technology. Against odds that should have destroyed us. We won because our soldiers had something to fight for beyond victory. We won because every human soldier carries their entire world with them into battle." High Arbiter Solen stood. Her crystal body caught the light and scattered it across the chamber. "The Council will require time to consider these revelations. Inspector Veleth, your report is accepted. Ambassador Quan, Admiral Mam, thank you for your candor." She looked around at the gathered representatives. Many faces showed confusion. Some showed fear. A few showed something that might have been envy. This session is adjourned until tomorrow. As the chamber emptied, Ambassador Quan stood quietly at the speaker's platform. Inspector Veleth approached her. "Ambassador, may I ask you a personal question?" "Of course. What did you place in the walls of your first ship?" Ambassador Quan smiled sadly. "A photograph of my parents. A letter from my husband. A drawing my daughter made when she was 4 years old. She drew our family as stick figures holding hands. She wrote, 'I love you, Mommy,' at the bottom in crooked letters. And did it give you strength?" "It gave me everything, Inspector. Every time I thought I could not continue, I remembered that drawing. I remembered those crooked letters. I remembered that there was a little girl on Earth who was counting the days until I came home." She touched Veleth's arm gently. It was the first time a human had touched him. You cannot understand this, can you? Your people do not love the way we do. Velith was silent for a long moment. No, he admitted finally. We do not. And I am beginning to wonder if that is a weakness in us. Not in you. Ambassador Quan nodded and walked away, leaving Velith alone in the empty chamber. He stood there for a long time, thinking about photographs and letters and the terrible, beautiful power of human love. What lies beneath the hull plating of human vessels that shocked? Council Part 5. The Galactic Council delivered its ruling 3 days after Inspector Velith's presentation. The human vessel Eternal Dawn contained no illegal weapons, no forbidden technology, no violations of galactic law. The ship was cleared to leave Council space immediately, but the consequences of the inspection spread far beyond legal rulings. News of what lay beneath. Human hull plating traveled across the galaxy within hours. Species that had never met humans discussed the strange creatures who filled their warships with photographs and letters. Some called it primitive. Others called it foolish. A few called it terrifying. The Kovani Collective issued a formal statement declaring human emotional attachment to be a form of mass delusion. The Malvari Empire suggested that human crews should be psychologically evaluated before being allowed to operate military vessels. The Fanari Republic remained silent, but their representatives had long private conversations in quiet corners. Captain Park Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn as the ship prepared to depart. The wall panels had been replaced. The hidden spaces were sealed once again. The photographs and letters and memories were back in darkness, waiting patiently for the moments when they would be needed. Captain, we are cleared for departure, Lieutenant Yoon Hana reported. Take us out, Lieutenant. Set course for Earth. The engines hummed to life. The ship began moving away from the Council Station, passing other vessels as it headed for open space. Park Do-hyun watched the alien ships through the viewport. He wondered how many of them felt empty to their crews. He wondered how many alien soldiers wished they had something precious hidden in their walls. The door to the bridge opened. Inspector Velith entered, looking uncertain. Inspector, Park Do-hyun said with surprise. I thought you had returned to the station. I requested permission to travel to the edge of Council space aboard your vessel. I have more questions. More things I need to understand. Park Do-hyun studied the alien for a moment. Something had changed in Velith. His movements were less confident. His eyes seemed troubled. You are welcome aboard, Inspector. Though I am not sure I can answer all your questions. They stood together at the viewport as the station grew smaller behind them. Stars stretched into infinity ahead. Captain, may I ask what you contributed to the walls of this ship? Park Do-hyun reached into his uniform pocket and pulled out a small photograph. It was worn at the edges from years of handling. It showed an older couple standing in front of a small house, and beside them, a young woman holding an infant. My parents, he said. My sister. And my daughter, when she was 3 months old. This photograph was taken the day before I left for my first command assignment. I have carried it with me for 20 years. You carry it in your pocket, not in the wall? I placed a copy in the wall, but I keep the original close to me always. When the battle becomes too hard, when I am afraid, I touch this photograph. I feel the edges against my fingers, and I remember that I must survive. I must return home. My daughter is waiting. Velith looked at the photograph. The human faces smiled back at him. They seemed so fragile, so temporary, so beloved. Your daughter is no longer an infant now. She is 20 years old. She graduated from the academy last year. She serves on a patrol ship near the outer colonies. Park Do-hyun smiled proudly. She sent me a message last month. She told me she placed a photograph of me in her ship's walls. So you protect her image while she protects yours. Yes, we protect each other across the distance. That is what families do. Velith was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer, almost vulnerable. I do not have family like you describe. Carvani reproduce through genetic selection. Our offspring are raised in collective facilities. We do not form the bonds that humans form. We do not love. Do you wish you did? The question hung in the air. Velith had never been asked such a thing before. He had never considered that the absence of love might be something to regret. I do not know, he admitted. I never knew what I was missing. But after seeing what you carry in your walls, I feel something strange. I feel like there is an empty space inside me. A space where something important should be. Park Do-yeon put a hand on the alien's shoulder. It was a gesture of comfort that humans used with each other. Velith did not pull away. It is never too late to fill that space, Inspector. Love is not something you are born with. It is something you build. You choose to care about others. You choose to let them matter to you. And once you do, you are never alone again. The ship entered hyperspace. Stars became streaks of light outside the viewport. The eternal dawn raced toward Earth, carrying its precious cargo of memories and love dotting the crew quarters. Lieutenant Yoon Hannah was packing her personal items. Her tour of duty was ending when they reached Earth. She would transfer to a new ship, a newly built cruiser that needed experienced engineers. There was a knock at her door. She opened it to find Inspector Velith standing outside. Lieutenant Yoon, may I speak with you? Of course, Inspector. Please, come in. Velith entered the small room. He looked around at the personal items that filled the space. Photographs on the desk. A plant growing in a pot by the window. Books with worn spines on a shelf. You are leaving this ship? He asked. Yes, but I will always carry part of it with me. I added to these walls when I came aboard. That part of me stays here forever. Velith reached into his own bag and pulled out a small object. It was the pressed flower that Lieutenant Yoon Hannah had given him days ago. The one sealed in resin. The gift he had not understood. I have kept this, he said quietly. I do not know why. It has no value. It serves no purpose. But I cannot make myself discard it. Yoon Hannah smiled warmly. That is the beginning, Inspector. The beginning of what? The beginning of caring about something beyond yourself. That flower is from Earth, from my mother's garden. I gave it to you because I wanted you to carry a piece of our world with you. And you kept it because something in you recognized its meaning. Velith looked at the flower in his hand. Such a small thing. Fragile and preserved. A piece of a world he had never visited, given by a person he barely knew. What should I do with it? Keep it somewhere safe. Look at it when you feel lost. Remember that someone cared enough to give you a gift. And maybe someday you will find something of your own to add to it. The ship dropped out of hyperspace near Earth. The blue and green planet filled the viewport, beautiful and alive. Around it orbited hundreds of ships, all of them carrying hidden treasures in their walls. Inspector Velith stood at the observation deck for the final time. He watched as shuttles began launching from the eternal dawn, carrying crew members down to reunite with their families. Captain Park Do-yeon found him there an hour later. We will reach the surface soon, Inspector. A transport is waiting to take you to the diplomatic station. Thank you, Captain. Velith hesitated. May I tell you something? Of course. When I return to Corvani space, I will place this flower in my quarters, hidden behind a wall panel where no one will see it. I do not fully understand why, but it feels important. It feels like something I need to do. Park Do-yeon smiled. Then you have learned the most important lesson of all, Inspector. What lesson is that? That love does not require understanding. It only requires acceptance. You do not need to know why the flower matters. You only need to know that it does. Velith nodded slowly. For the first time since boarding the human ship, he felt something close to peace. 3 weeks later, Inspector Velith sat alone in his quarters aboard a Corvani patrol vessel. The room was small and efficient, like all Corvani spaces. Gray walls. Minimal furniture. No decorations. But behind one wall panel, hidden in the narrow space between metal layers, something new waited. A pressed flower sealed in resin. A gift from a human engineer who had wanted him to understand. Velith touched the wall gently. Knowing what lay beneath, his ship felt slightly less empty now, and somewhere across the galaxy, the Eternal Dawn continued its journey, carrying the hopes and loves and memories of 240 souls. The photograph smiled in the darkness. The letters waited to be read again. The hearts of humanity beat within cold metal walls, and the universe learned to fear the species that fought not for conquest, but for love.